The Holocaust, one of the darkest chapters in the history of mankind. Between 1941 and 1945, approximately 6 million Jews were systematically executed by the Nazi regime. The effects of that nightmarish period still linger on. Estimates show that just little over 220,000 Holocaust survivors remain alive, living testaments to one of history's bleakest periods. With the survivors fading as the years go by, it's imperative now more than ever we hear from them. You'll have the opportunity to directly hear from a Holocaust survivor in Fort Frances on Tuesday, October 21st. Nate Liepciger is a 97-year-old Holocaust survivor who will share his story of survival. Here to talk more about this unique event is Pastor Ben Mast of the Rainy River Covenant Church. Thank you so much, Ben, for stopping by to tell us about a unique event that is going to be happening in Fort Frances on October 21st. That's Tuesday, October 21st. Tell us a little bit about it, Ben.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been amazing to see the ways in which God has really, in his sovereignty, brought together a whole host of different circumstances to make this event happen, and I'll maybe share about that in a little bit. But before anything else, the event is a Holocaust survivor testimony that will be given. His name is Nate Liepciger. He's 97 years old, a survivor of Auschwitz-Birkenau and other Holocaust death camps. And he will be speaking at the Townshend Theatre, sharing his story of survival and also his story of emigrating here to Canada after the war and being involved directly in our area on Tuesday, October 21st, 6 to 8 p.m. at the Townshend Theatre in Fort Frances.
What an amazing opportunity this is to hear directly from a Holocaust survivor. Unfortunately, so many survivors of the Holocaust are fading away as the years go by, so it's important that we're able to hear directly from them, Ben. Why do you think, personally, it's important that we learn about the Holocaust and its relevance in today's world?
That's an excellent question. I mean, in today's world with rising anti-Semitism, whether it is in the schools, there's been reports released of the rising anti-Semitism there, but also extended beyond that as well. I mean, you don't have to spend too much time on the internet to see the ways in which distortion of the Jewish people becomes a very prominent theme. And as it has been said, I think it was Primo Levi, who's a Holocaust survivor, who said it happened before, therefore it can happen again. And because of that, there is an importance in listening and hearing and remembering. And I think especially for us as followers of a Jewish Messiah, of Jesus, I think there is an obligation for us to bear witness and also to, with our voices, stand up and be bold in speaking against Jew hatred where it is seen in our world. And it's been truly amazing to see God's sovereignty in bringing together this opportunity for our area that I did not necessarily anticipate our small part of the world having the chance to hear a voice like this, even as these years, as you say, are moving quickly and these opportunities are quickly passing by.
You talked a little bit earlier about the unique circumstances of how this event came together. You want to speak about that a little bit?
I would be honored to. Yeah. In fact, I'm kind of itching to, because it's been such a just rich experience this year of seeing the sovereignty of God in a really unique and special way. And you know, it goes back a long ways. When I was a young person, I've always had a heart that's God has developed an interest and a care and a compassion for the Jewish people, whether through reading Israel My Glory magazine, through different people, older individuals that I grew up with as a child, or just a love of history as well, and tying that in with my faith and seeing God's unique burden and love for the Jewish people. And so in recent years, that translated into a real sense of urgency as it related to the Holocaust, a recognition of how quickly the survivors are passing from our world, how short the opportunities are for us to hear their testimonies. And so that developed first into conducting interviews with Holocaust survivors. So virtually, I conducted a couple of interviews with different Holocaust survivors, one of whom was named Eva Cooper. She's an amazing Canadian woman. I would so recommend reading her story of survival, actually saved through the war by being brought into a Franciscan nunnery, where they kept her there as a quote-unquote Catholic child, but that's how she survived the war there outside of Warsaw, Poland. But it was through that interview that I was connected with her, and a few months later, listening to the radio on a different program, I was listening, and I recognized her voice, and she was advertising something called March of the Living. I'd never heard of it before, in part because it is an event almost entirely targeted towards people who are Jewish, which I am not, but I heard of March of the Living, and I was immediately intrigued because it's a program that takes all kinds of people, mostly Jewish young people, Jewish students, to Poland to educate them about the Holocaust and the very places where it happened. And it culminates in a march from Auschwitz I to Birkenau, which was the most brutal death camp there in the Second World War and the Holocaust. So on that day, leading up to that day, I was researching, getting to know different survivors who might be present, not expecting to have the opportunity to engage with any of them personally. One of them I recognized was Nate Liepciger. I got his book, I put it in my backpack, but again, with 10,000 people there, did not expect to have the opportunity to connect. That changed when, standing there in this sea of people, I looked over, and sitting maybe 30 feet away at a given time was Mr. Liepciger. And so I went over, I introduced myself, I begged him to remain seated, but 97 years old, he jumped to his feet excitedly, shook my hand, embraced me with a hug. I was able to share almost immediately. He asked why I was there. I was able to share I'm there as a Christian, seeking to emphasize that we are among those who stand with him and with the Jewish people. And the conversation shifted. I knew he was from Canada, as I am. I'm a pastor at the church in Rainy River, Ontario. I knew he was from Canada, so I asked where. He said Toronto. He asked where I was from. I said Rainy River, not expecting him to know what I was speaking about. 1,800 kilometers away. Very few Canadians really have much of a sense of Rainy River. He immediately said, Rainy River, of course. I've spent decades working in the hospitals there as the chief electrical engineer, the hospital in Rainy River, Sioux Lookout, Atikokan, and Fort Frances. And immediately I was struck. Fort Frances, that was the hospital I was born in. That was the hospital a few months before my son, Henry John. That's where he was born. And I was just overcome with emotion, able to say thank you to this man, 97 years old, for the role that he had played in my life, his survival, even though I had never known it. To make a long story short, the rest of the story unfolded from there. His daughter was there. She passed along her contact information. We've kept in touch. Through God alone, I can really give all the credit to him. He has orchestrated, including through the generosity of many people in our district, orchestrated him coming, Nate coming, October 21st to 23, speaking in Fort Frances at the Townshend Theatre and at the local schools as well.
How incredible. What are the odds that Nate worked in several Northwestern Ontario hospitals, or even that he heard of Rainy River and Fort Frances? Because like you said, not many people are familiar with our neck of the woods. The fact you got to connect with him is a story only God could orchestrate. Speaking of stories, what can people expect from Nate's testimony? Without giving too much away, of course.
Excellent question. Well, the night is going to begin at 6 o'clock with a presenter from the Friends of Simon Wiesenthal Center, and they'll be kind of setting the stage for what Nate is going to share afterwards. They'll be presenting their powerful workshop, Lessons and Legacies of the Holocaust, and that's going to be examining both the history of what happened, also its relevance for today's world and how it continues to have ramifications in our world. That will then be followed by Nate's testimony. I won't sugarcoat it. It will be difficult. It's not just a hopeful time. It is a difficult story to hear. At the same time, it is a difficult story, testifying to his resilience, testifying to his survival, and also challenging us to do what we can in our time to stand against hatred wherever we see it, to, as Christians in particular, there's a particular application we can take of the calling we have to be the hands and feet of Jesus in those ways. But that will be Nate's testimony, really his story of survival, and then a challenge to us to carry that torch forward.
It sounds like it's going to be a very eventful evening. To back up a little bit, you said that Nate's going to be going to the different schools in the local area.
Yes, we are so overjoyed that God has provided that opportunity as well, to allow the younger generation to hear firsthand, and the generations that will follow to have this now personal connection with this time in history that can feel so remote and far away, but really is so close to us. We just often do not realize just how close to us it is and just how real the ramifications of this are, even in 2025. So yes, the young people at Fort Francis High School, at Cornerstone Christian School, will be hearing from Nate personally, and I'm so overjoyed that God has paved the way for those opportunities as well.
What a unique and special opportunity for our little neck of the woods. Like you said, Ben, we think of the Holocaust as something that happened long ago, just a blip in history, but we're really not that far removed from it. To have the opportunity to see a living testament of that dark period is just remarkable. Ben, are there any final thoughts you'd like to share with us?
Just to emphasize again, as Dalton, you put so well, the uniqueness of this opportunity for us as even just stewards of this opportunity here in our area. I so pray that we would have as many out as possible to come and hear. It is completely free, open to the public, thanks to the generosity of local donors. And so please feel free to come. We have 430 seats to fill. So one of those seats, I hope and pray, is you.
Thank you so much, Ben, for stopping by and telling us about this unique event.
Thank you, Dalton.
Nate Liepciger will share his Holocaust survival testimony on Tuesday, October 21st at the Townshend Theatre in Fort Francis from 6 to 8 p.m. The event is free. Because of the subject matter, attendees are advised that there will be sensitive content. Come hear Nate's story, and let's together declare, never again. With Heartland Christian Broadcasters, I'm Dalton Johnson.